There are 5 signs that reveal you were the best mother to your children. Signs that Carl Jung described in his work on the archetypes of motherhood. Signs that are not about perfection, but about the depth of your perception and the honesty of your heart. Perhaps you have wondered if you were enough, if your love was sufficient, or if the moments you failed have marked your children forever. These questions are like shadows that hang over you on silent nights. But what if these very doubts are the first sign of your greatness? Jung spoke of the great mother as an archetype deeply rooted in the human psyche. Not the perfect mother, but the complete mother. The mother who carries both light and shadow within herself and allows her children to recognize both parts. The first sign lies in something that most mothers fear. You were not afraid of your children's darkness, but you mirrored it. While other mothers try to dry every tear, banish every pain, and soothe every difficult emotion, you were brave enough to see your children in their complete truth. Jung called this the shadow, that part of the personality we like to hide. Anger, sadness, fear, jealousy. These feelings are not flaws in development. They are parts of human totality. When a mother recognizes these parts in her child and, instead of trying to eliminate them, silently reflects them, something magical happens. The child learns that they are loved in their entirety. You were a mother who did not run away from your child's anger. You did not try to appease their anger with sweets or ward off sadness with distractions. You were there as a silent witness, a mirror of their emotions. Your eyes said, "I see you. Even in your darkness, I see you." Many mothers make the mistake of projecting their own fears onto their children. They cannot bear the child's pain because it touches their own pain. They want to save, heal, fix, because one day they were the child who felt alone and misunderstood. But you were different. You were a mother who learned to live with discomfort. You knew that growth happens through confrontation, not avoidance. You were the mirror that reflects the truth, not the mask that hides it. The second sign lies in something that seems to go against all instincts. You did not try to save your children, but trusted in their ability to find themselves. Jung spoke of individuation, the process by which a person finds their true self. This process cannot be delegated. It cannot be replaced by love. It needs to be experienced. The great trap of motherhood is the illusion that loving means removing all obstacles, that caring means preventing all challenges, and that protecting means never letting the child fail. But Jung knew that this kind of love sabotages a child's development. You were a mother who watched her child climb trees, even knowing he might fall. You were there when he fell, but you didn't stop him from climbing. You were a mother who allowed her child to make mistakes, even if it was painful to watch. Trusting in a child's ability is perhaps the most courageous form of love. It means believing that in that little being there is already everything they need to find their way. It means setting aside your own fears and trusting the child's internal compass. Many mothers confuse control with affection. They think they need to prove their love by intervening, solving problems, smoothing paths, preparing answers. But you knew that true love sometimes means keeping your hands still. You were a mother who asked instead of declaring, who listened instead of teaching, who asked questions that led the child to find their own answers. You were a mother who allowed her child to surprise himself. The third sign lies in a rarely recognized strength. You did not use your own wounds as a tool. Jung knew the phenomenon of unconscious projection very well. When a mother transfers her own unresolved conflicts to her child, the child becomes the stage for her past. You were a mother who did not take her pains out on her children. You did not try to heal through them what was broken in you. You did not try to make them what you yourself could never be. Many mothers unconsciously turn their children into their therapists. They tell them about disappointments, unfulfilled dreams, wounds that never healed. They overload their children with emotional burdens that do not belong to them. But you were a mother who fought her own battles. You suffered, but you did not make your children witnesses to your grief. You felt pain, but you did not make your children the comforters of your suffering. The archetype of the narcissistic mother turns the child into an extension of herself. The child becomes a project, a correction of her own story, a proof of her own perfection. But you were a mother who saw her children as independent beings. You were emotionally honest without being emotionally excessive. You were sad when you were sad, but you did not hold your children responsible for your sadness. You were angry when you were angry, but you did not make your children the targets of your anger. This silent strength, this ability to distinguish between your feelings and your children, gave them something precious, the permission to have their own feelings without feeling responsible for yours. The fourth sign seems like a paradox, but perhaps it is the most important. You disappointed your children, and by doing so, you freed them. Jung knew that individuation is only possible through separation, and separation begins with the necessary disenchantment with the mother. Every child begins life with the illusion that their mother is omnipotent. She is the goddess who can eliminate pain, fulfill all wishes, solve all problems. This illusion is necessary for survival, but it must be broken for the child to develop their own self. You were a mother who had the courage to be imperfect. You did not try to satisfy every need, grant every wish, solve every problem. You disappointed your children, and this disappointment was a gift. Because the moment the child realizes that their mother is not omnipotent, they begin to discover their own power. The moment the child realizes that their mother is not perfect, they begin to seek their own completeness. The silent betrayal that heals is the first disappointment. The moment the child realizes they are on their own is the moment they begin to find themselves. The transition from childhood to adulthood begins with the end of the illusion. You were a mother who did not try to remain a goddess forever. You descended from that throne so that your children could ascend their own. The fifth, and perhaps most profound sign, lies in the most difficult of all maternal virtues. You did not possess your children, but let them go. Jung understood the mother as the guardian of the threshold, the one who watches the gate between dependence and autonomy. This role requires a paradoxical love, a love that overcomes itself. Possession and bond are often confused, but they are fundamentally different. A bond is a bridge. Possession is a cage. The bond connects without trapping. Possession traps without connecting. You were a mother who not only understood this distinction intellectually, but embodied it emotionally. When Jung spoke of archetypal maturation, he was referring to the moment when the mother no longer needs her child to define herself. This moment is an act of love of the highest order. It is the willingness to become dispensable so that the child can become necessary for themselves. You were a mother who did not make her children into trophies of her own perfection. You did not use them as proof of your worth. You were a mother who learned that letting go does not mean indifference, but trust in life itself. This trust is not naive. It is the result of a deep understanding of the nature of human development. Each person carries within them the capacity for self-regulation, self-healing, and self-discovery. The mother's task is not to replace these abilities, but to awaken them. You were a mother who allowed her children to make their own decisions, even if they were not the ones you would have wanted. You were a mother who did not make her children the fulfillers of her dreams. The final act of love is perhaps the most difficult, no longer needing the child to define oneself. Many mothers remain trapped in a symbiotic relationship with their children because they have not learned who they are beyond the role of mother. But you were a mother who had a life of her own. You were a woman who also had dreams, interests, and passions that had nothing to do with your children. You were a mother who showed them that a full life is possible, even when they are no longer at the center. This completeness, this emotional autonomy, was perhaps the greatest gift you could give your children, as it taught them that they too can be complete, that they too can be autonomous, that they too can let go when the time comes. Jung knew that individuation is a lifelong process and does not end in childhood. Mothers also need to individuate. Mothers also need to learn to detach from their roles and discover who they are beyond their functions. You were a mother who did not fear this process. You were a mother who showed that love does not mean trapping, but freedom. You were a mother who gave her children the most precious thing one human being can give to another, the permission to be themselves. But what does it mean to understand all this? What does it mean to recognize that you were the best mother you could be? It means accepting the dignity of imperfection. A good mother was never perfect. She was permeable to the human, to doubts, to fears, to uncertainties. She was a mother who knew and accepted her own limits. The shadow remains, the doubts remain, the questions remain, but they lose their power when they are shared, when they are placed in a relationship, when they are accepted as part of human totality. Jung taught us that the self is not found, but rather born, and it is born in the light of an honest relationship. You were a mother who made honest relationships possible. You were a mother who allowed her children to give birth to themselves. What remains is not what you did, but how deeply you truly saw. You did not see your children only as projects, tasks, or responsibilities. You saw them as souls, as mysteries, as beings with their own destiny. This depth of vision is perhaps what distinguishes a good mother from a perfect mother. The perfect mother tries to do everything right. The good mother tries to do everything genuinely. You were an authentic mother. You were a mother who did not lie to her children, neither about life nor about herself. You were a mother who showed that humanity is not a flaw to be hidden, but a gift to be shared. If today you look back on your motherhood, you might see the moments when you failed, the moments you were impatient, when you did not listen, when you did not understand. These moments are not your shame. They are your humanity. Jung would say that these moments were necessary. They were part of your children's individuation. They were part of their path to discovering their own strength, developing their own wisdom, finding their own perfection. You were a mother who did not try to play God. You were a mother who remained human. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson you gave your children, that it's okay to be human. The love you gave was not the love of perfection, but the love of presence. You were there in all your imperfection, in all your truth, in all your humanity. And that presence was worth more than all the perfection in the world. Today, when you ask yourself if you were enough, remember, you were not perfect, but you were real. You were not flawless, but you were complete. You were not omnipotent, but you were there. This is the meaning of a good mother, according to Jung. She is not the goddess who solves all problems, but the woman who shares life in all its complexity. She is not the heroine who wards off all dangers, but the companion who walks through all dangers alongside them. You were that companion. You were that woman. You were that mother. And if today your children live their own lives, make their own decisions, follow their own paths, this is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that you have succeeded. Because the goal of motherhood is not to have children who remain children forever. The goal of motherhood is to form human beings capable of following their own paths. And you achieve that. Perhaps you recognize yourself in these signs. Perhaps now you see that the doubts that tormented you were themselves a sign of your depth. Perhaps now you understand that the moments you were not perfect were the moments you were most human. This realization is a gift. It is the gift of self-forgiveness, of self-knowledge, of dignity. You were a good mother, not because you did everything right, but because you did everything out of love. And this love, this deep and honest human love, is what remains. This is the legacy you left for your children, not perfection, but love, not control, but trust, not possession, but freedom. You were the best mother you could be, and that is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything. If these words resonate with you, if you recognize yourself in these signs, then share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us about your own journey in motherhood, about your doubts and your discoveries. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as here you will find more content on the depth of human relationships, the wisdom of psychology, and the beauty of imperfection. Your story might comfort another mother who, tonight, is awake wondering if she is enough. Your truth may be the light she needs to realize that she is already everything she needs to be.